Hi, today I'm going to do a makeup look which is inspired by one of the looks I did at London Fashion Week, actually for the Templey London show, and lots of people really loved the makeup, and it's one of those looks that would suit everyone and anyone, so I thought I'd make a tutorial of it today. It was sort of inspired loosely by a kind of vintage rose, sort of 70s young Lauren Hutton type of affair. So it's a very sort of natural skin, a very kind of vintage rose lip stain, and quite lashy, and it is just a very wearable and beautiful look that would work for kind of any occasion really. So as I say, the skin was very, very natural. The makeup for the show was actually sponsored by Sunday Riley, so I'll show you some of the products that I use from them, and also I've done some dupes and replacements, and so I'm mixing it up today with lots of different brands. But what I did use and I loved was the Effortless Primer, and this is the breathable tinted primer. And I actually use this on the day instead of foundation because I find that really it's quite a nice sort of amount of coverage. It's not as much as foundation, so you do still need to use your concealer. But if I just show you on one side of my face, so it's not really covering as such, but it is kind of blurring any pigmentation and shadows and kind of smoothing the skin. You can put quite a bit on it, it still looks really, really natural. And it does feel really light. I find actually that you kind of need to smooth it, and then you sort of need to pat it into place because it feels quite wet when you initially put it on. And then if you just tap over the areas that you spread it, it kind of starts to sink in and becomes pretty much invisible on the skin. So you can put plenty of that on. So I've applied the tinted primer really liberally all over, and I really like this product because it generally looks like you haven't got any makeup on, although your skin is just, it's not flawless because you still have to do a little bit of concealing, but it really evens out the skin tone. And what I like is the finish because it's not greasy in any way. It's not even dewy, it's slightly tacky. It's a bit like that feeling when you've cleansed your face and you put your moisturiser on about 5 minutes later when your skin's just totally natural and has that slight tackiness to it, which I really like that feeling. It feels sort of just really, really natural. But as I say, you do need to then do a little bit of concealing. Well, maybe you don't, maybe you're lucky and your skin's really good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my Secret Camouflage, so it's quite a heavy concealer. I'm going to mix it with the primer on the back of my hand, so I'm going to get a sort of something halfway between the tinted primer but with a bit more concealing power, and then anywhere that you need a little bit more concealing you can just go and pat on that extra coverage, either in larger areas, so if you find that something like this wouldn't cover your pigmentation, for example, then you might want to use a brush, or you can just go in and pinpoint, which is mainly what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some Vichy Dermablend, and I'm going to use a tiny pinpoint brush and just cover a few marks. I have like this one, and this one, and just kind of pinpoint anything that needs to be taken off. And that way you're not covering your skin, you're leaving it with that really natural looking finish that the tinted primer has given you, and you look kind of like you haven't got any foundation on at all. But if you just go in and do a little bit of clever retouching, a little bit of clever concealing, you can really make your skin look pretty much flawless. And then for under my eyes, I'm using the primer again, mixed with a tiny little bit of Secret Camouflage, just to knock down the shadows there. And pat that into place. So for the eyes, I did a sort of quite muted bronzy lid with a little bit of gold highlighter. I actually used these colours, this bronzy shade here and this gold, but you can use any brand. I mean, most brands have something a little bit bronzy, something a little bit goldy. And really choose the shade depending on your skin tone, because some of the really orangey, rich bronzers can look very orangey on fair skins, but they look amazing on a darker skin. So if you are very, very fair skinned, you might be better with more of a sort of rose gold, and then again, not too yellowy a gold as a highlighter. Whereas if you've got darker skin, more olive skin, you can obviously go for much richer, almost brighter, more intense versions of those bronzers and golds. So I'm going to use the bronze shade. I'll use a tissue because I've actually done my base all across the lid. And I've used a little bit of primer. I used some NARS, just gently patted all over my eyelid. So that's quite a good colour for a fairish skin, because it's, as I say, it's not too densely bright as some of them really metallic bronzes can be. And it was more just like a wash of colour. It wasn't a real kind of intense look around the eyes. So on to eye pencil, and I used a black in the show. I'm going to use this Physicians Formula Shimmer Strips pencil. This is from a really nice kit actually. It comes, you get 3 different shades, 3 times warm nudes I've chosen, because I really like these pencils, and I think these colours together are just so handy to have. So there's a black, traditional black, a really